Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 20 of the Alec Walt Show. I'm your host, Alec Walt, alongside another very special guest, and today we're talking about the NBA. There was a bunch of news around the league, including New Orleans Pelicans firing Stan Van Gundy after one season as head coach of the team. Joining me to discuss the firing and the future in New Orleans is Jordan Kliebert from ESPN Radio New Orleans. Jordan, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you joining me.
No, I appreciate you. Well, I got a LinkedIn message all of a sudden this morning after everything was breaking, and you asked me to come on the show. It's like I can't do it from 12 to 3 because there's a bunch of stuff going on, but I'm glad I can join you right now, at 6 o'clock when we're recording this.
Hell yeah, man. No, I appreciate you joining me. So let's jump right into it, man. You know, there was obviously a ton of news, including Stan Van Gundy on his way out the door in New Orleans. When you got the notification this morning, what was your reaction?
So it kind of wasn't too shocking, just from kind of during the show we have, the Sports Hangover with host Gus Cat and go from 12 to 3 over on ESPN Radio New Orleans. We're the flagship station of the Pelicans. So just hearing the different, end of the season press conferences, and Will Guillory was asking every single player, hey, what was your first impression with Stan Van Gundy, this season so far? And a lot of them, they were given the right responses, saying like, he's great, he's a great coach, he wants to win, but at the same time there was a certain tone to their voice to make it seem to where it was almost like the relationship was there, but something wasn't really working out. And just hearing different people that are covered around the league and covered the team in general, it was kind of a weird fit. And throughout the season, even fans that called into our show noticed that there was something off with Stan Van Gundy and how the team just kind of responded with him.
So normally when professional coach, this is not just basketball. This is all over. You get always like a 3-year window. You want to see that the development. SVG was fired after one year. Do you think he deserved to get fired that quickly?
Well, today David Griffin actually had a press conference with the media here in New Orleans, and he was just saying that the right wording that he would say is like philosophical. He didn't have the right mentality, so to say. He kind of was saying that, for lack of a better terms, he couldn't find the right words to say the reason why. David Griffin still thinks very highly of Stan Van Gundy and just everything that he's done here in a short year with the city of New Orleans. He still respects him as a coach and what he's done in the previous years, but just as a philosophy, and they were kind of butting heads with things that he wanted to do and what David Griffin wanted to do. So as much as it was a year under COVID, I don't know if it was justified firing him, just from what we've heard throughout the year of David Griffin saying, oh, well, it was kind of an unfair year. You can't really expect much when Stan Van Gundy's main mentality is, get the guys into the workout room, get them into practice and practice a lot. Most of the time they got one practice a week. So I really can't answer that question if it was justified for, firing him after one season, but I can kind of see the direction that David Griffin wanted to go into.
So you look at the situation right now in New Orleans. Obviously, Zion Williamson will be entering year 3, along with other star players like Brandon Ingram. We'll get into some other free agent options in just a little bit, but this upcoming coaching hire is massive because in the NBA, you got to keep the star players happy. Right now, you have 2 young stars that are going through another coaching change.
Yeah.
In your opinion, who are some of the options right now you think that New Orleans should pursue in hiring as their next head coach?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's the third upcoming season for Zion Williamson here in the city of New Orleans, and it's going to be his third head coach in such a young career. And, a lot of fans over in New Orleans are like, all right, well, we're starting over again. And it's a lot of them kind of get sick of the narrative of, oh, it's a new head coach. You got to give them some more time to kind of adjust into that role and kind of offensive and defensive scheme. So, I mean, as much as it sucks that there's going to be like a third head coach in 3 seasons for Zion Williamson and this young core of Pelicans players, I mean, kind of had to rip the Band-Aid off when it happened. David Griffin kind of owned up to his mistake, and they're going to kind of go on from here. But some of the options that I've heard the past couple hours, even before Stan Van Gundy was fired, a lot of people weren't too happy that Stan Van Gundy was the coach at the time. But a lot of people that I've heard name pop out into discussion is Teresa Witherspoon, as you know, on the Pelican staff already. Zion Williamson, I've heard from multiple people that are inside the organization say that he absolutely loves her. Just working out with a bunch of the guys. She has that mentality. She's played basketball, Olympic team. She shared a story a few months ago saying that, there was a high school coach that said, hey, you're not, I guess, lack of a better term, I kind of forgot what she said exactly, but you won't make it far. And when she was on the Olympic team, she won the gold medal. She was cheering on top of her lungs, and she brought that gold medal to the lady's house and shoved it right into her face and said, look at me, only the top 12 players in the world get this medal. So we had a caller on the show say it was pettiness, but I like that personally. Just, that mentality to say, you can't tell me what I can and cannot do. And I think this Pelicans team really needs that fire because, as JJ Redick said, it's one of the quietest teams that he's ever been a part of. And he's a veteran in this league that's played for a very long time. And I think that's one coaching consideration. Woj, just a few minutes ago, I saw Fred Vinson. He's, part of the coaching staff over in New Orleans, and he fixed Lonzo Ball's shot. He's one of the guys that, helped BI, Lonzo Ball, and a bunch of these guys just get better at shooting overall. So I think that is a storyline that we're going to have to look very close into in the coming weeks before the draft, because I do think that they're going to get a head coach before the draft in a couple of weeks or a couple months.
Compared to some other teams that have a head coaching vacancy, we have Boston, Portland, Washington, Indiana, Orlando. Where would you rank their Pelicans job just as for overall position compared to the other teams that have vacancies in the NBA?
I think it's up there with them. I mean, obviously, there's been a little bit of tarnish the past couple years, but you got to remember, you still have Zion Williamson, who's the big up and coming name. You have Lonzo Ball. We're still wondering what the Pelicans are going to do with him this upcoming offseason. You have BI, one most improved player last year, kind of fell off a cliff a little bit this past season. But I mean, there's a huge potential with Kyra Lewis and this whole young Pelicans young core and what they can do. And if you can find the right coach that wants to, put in the time and effort with this young Pelican squad, I think the sky's the limit for these guys.
So you mentioned Lonzo, put your GM hat on here. Are you bringing him back? You think that's a realistic option here?
I think you definitely have to consider it. Just you gave up so much in that Anthony Davis trade, and it's almost like it's a lot of money, but if you're David Griffin, you have to find the right price. You can't, be giving him like a $30 million contract, $28 million contract. I think you could go in other directions at the point guard position that could make your team better. But at the same time, BI, Josh Hart, and Zion Williamson, they all have that connection. They played together already 2 years, and kind of splitting that up this far along, I think could hurt them rather than help them at this point in their careers.
So you bring Lonzo back. You have Zion under I think a couple more years of his rookie deal, Brandon Ingram. How do you improve this roster to get over the hump in the Western Conference?
I think they just need to find a reliable guard. I know Lonzo and some of these guys, I mean, Bledsoe, I think that's, the big falling out this season was Eric Bledsoe was just continued to play even after, he had some horrible possessions late into games. He came out of a timeout not knowing what the play call was. Just guys off the bench didn't know what they were doing. And I think that also had to play into what, happened today in the firing of Stan Van Gundy. It's just, not getting the team on board and not having that passion for, a sense of urgency, so to say. But I think the steps moving forward is just getting Zion Williamson more involved. I know Point Zion is going to be big going forward for this Pelicans team. But what I'm looking forward to seeing is just Zion's role improving and being more physical down in the paint. And I think they'll be fine. I just think they need to find their identity more than anything.
So you talked about getting a guard. I want to talk about a player that plays another position on this Pelicans team. When you guys made the Steven Adams trade, I figured that no one was going to be able to get a rebound against this team. Yes, his rebounding numbers were still solid, but overall, I mean, do you think Steven Adams really had that as much of an impact? Like, why do you think he didn't really show the same impact he did as he did his days in Oklahoma City?
So yeah, basically at the beginning of the season, Steven Adams was the MVP for the New Orleans Pelicans, getting absolutely like all the rebounds on the team. But as the season progressed and as Jackson Hayes actually kind of found his role with the New Orleans Pelicans, just becoming more of that, center and like getting offensive and defensive rebounds, you kind of saw Steven Adams' role kind of just decline a little bit. And I think when you look at, Eric Bledsoe and the Jrue Holiday trade as a whole was just kind of, we kept Eric Bledsoe instead of George Hill. And we all know what George Hill did throughout the season, which absolutely light up the 3-point range, which the Pelicans needed this season. So just along that and some bad breaks for the Pelicans is really what cemented this season.
So if you guys were to move on from a veteran, say you move on from Steven Adams or you move on from Eric Bledsoe, after the years they just had, what is their trade value?
That's the really concerning thing here is, before they came with the Pelicans, their trade value was, through the roof. You can, almost get anything for them. As you saw when we traded Jrue Holiday, I mean, we got so much back for Jrue Holiday, but now it seems like we can't get anything in return if we wanted to trade those players away because of the season that they had this year. And, it was a tough season for everybody. And I don't want to, put those players down because I don't know what they were going through personally. But at the same time, it really sets your organization back. And I know David Griffin has a bunch of picks in the upcoming drafts, but I know Pelicans fans here want to see, they want to see the product happen right now rather than later.
So just looking at the future of this roster, some of the other draft picks you've had the last couple of years, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Kira Lewis, Jackson Hayes, who you've already mentioned in this interview, who do you think among those other core players or prospects has the chance to be a part of this future here with Zion?
Definitely Kira Lewis. Zion Williamson talks very highly of him. And what was really confusing at the beginning of the season was, usually top 15 players that are selected in the draft get a lot of playing time. And David Griffin said we didn't draft Kira Lewis to, have starting minutes. But when he was out on the court, he changed the floor in general for Zion Williamson, getting him more space, being able to push the ball up the court. That's what Zion Williamson likes to do. He likes to push the ball up the court. This team is a young and fast team. And I felt at times that the team was kind of holding them back a little bit, really tight on the leash. But when Kira Lewis was able to, kind of let loose and do his own thing, the team really was successful down the stretch and late in games. So I want to see more minutes from Kira Lewis. But another player that I kind of look at is Jackson Hayes, because you saw him kind of almost like a baby giraffe last season or 2 seasons ago. And then this past season, he just came into his own and was a really core piece in defense, blocking shots, running up the court, making those hustle plays, and making just different things happen for the New Orleans Pelicans.
So one last thing I kind of want to get into here is, you look at the NBA landscape right now, players are moving like crazy, trying to find those opportunities, whether it's in basketball, outside of basketball, veterans moving across the league all the time. We always ask the question, could Anthony Davis bring someone to New Orleans? Now we obviously know he's on his way out with the Los Angeles Lakers. You did bring in some young talent here in return, but, with Zion, with, who knows what you get right now from Lonzo Ball, if he's coming back or not, with BI. If you guys were to dive into free agency, how appealing right now do you think your roster is from a free agency standpoint?
Well, you saw JJ Redick, and he thought this was going to be a place where we can make the playoffs multiple seasons, but obviously we all saw how that worked out. I think it's a very interesting place for guys. I think middle tier guys to come to. I don't know about high level just yet. Zion still needs to get, more of those stripes within, the NBA organization more, get his name recognized out there more and have kind of the respect that he deserves. But David Griffin said 3 things that this team needs to improve on, and it's basketball IQ, shooting, and toughness. And we thought this team was going to be a bully team from the start with Steven Adams, Zion Williamson, and they were one of those softer teams in the NBA, which blew everybody away this past season. And Zion Williamson was asked about, well, what is your takes on what David Griffin's 3 philosophy takeaways from the season that they need to improve on, and he was saying, yeah, those are some of the things, but the main thing is, coaching and, getting guys on board. And I think that spoke volumes to the organization, because what you saw from Anthony Davis, I mean, there wasn't as much communication as there is now with Zion Williamson and within the staff of the organization. And whenever a guy like Zion Williamson says something like that, you kind of have to listen to him, especially after what happened with Anthony Davis, where he turns down a stupid expensive contract where the organization looked itself in the face and says, why don't you want to play for my team when I'm offering you this much money?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. The Pelicans really need to make sure they make the right decisions this offseason, because you do not want to deal with another star power forward leaving in the future.
No.
And if you have more seasons like you did last year, it may make Zion Williamson just a little upset around the New Orleans Pelicans. Jordan, before I let you go, man, how can our listeners here keep in touch with you on social media, listen to some of your shows, podcasts? I'll let it all know right now.
Yeah, you can follow me over on Twitter at JD Kliebert, and then you can also follow at ESPN Radio NOLA over on Twitter. Shows from 12 to 3, the Sports Hangover with host Gus Cattingill.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, I really appreciate you joining the show today, man. I really do.
Thank you so much, Walt. I really did enjoy the time here.
Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Alec Walt Show. I'm Alec Walt alongside Jordan Kliebert. What do you think of the future of the New Orleans Pelicans? Feel free to comment that below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down the Block Sports for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.